ក្រោយពីពេលដែលប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាត្រូវបានរំដោះចេញផុតពីរបបកម្ពុជាប្រជាធិបតេយ្យដែលដឹកនាំនិងគ្រប់គ្រងដោយខ្មែរក្រហមនោះរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជានៅក្នុងសម័យនោះបានរៀបចំធ្វើការកាត់ទោសទៅលើមេដឹកនាំជាន់ខ្ពស់ខ្មែរក្រហមថាជាជនប្រល័យពូជសាសន៍នៅក្នុងការកាត់ទោសនេះមានអិសរាជជនអញ្ជើញមកពីបណ្ដាប្រទេសមួយចំនួនដែលជាអតីតអឺរ៉ុបខាងកើតនិងប្រទេសនៃចលនាមិនចូលបកសម្ព័ន្ធចូលរួមតែជាអកុសលការកាត់ទោសនេះមិនត្រូវបានទទួលស្គាល់ដោយបណ្ដាប្រទេសលោកខាងលិចនិងអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិឡើយ
There's a lot of confusion. It was very important that the trial took place in 1979, so soon after the crimes were committed, because there was more evidence easily available. There were many people, witnesses, able to speak. But there was a big problem that the people organising the court did not have the custody of the people charged. And the people charged did not have the opportunity to put forward their defence and to bring their lawyers forward. And that was a big problem. I think that the other problem was that the government at that time was not recognised in the United Nations. And so even if they did a good trial, perhaps it would not be recognised.
The trial in 1979 was not done to international standards. There were some questions about how it proceeded, the rules that were used, the lawyers, the judges. There were a lot of questions about how it proceeded. I think this was done because it was done so quickly and because Cambodia at the time was really not prepared to have such a trial at such a high level.
អង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិមិនត្រឹមតែមិនទទួលស្គាល់ការកាត់ទោសរបបកម្ពុជាប្រជាធិបតេយ្យនិងអតីតមេដឹកនាំជាន់ខ្ពស់ខ្មែរក្រហមប៉ុណ្ណោះទេតែក្រោយមកអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិបែរជាទទួលស្គាល់ពួកខ្មែរក្រហមថាជាតំណាងស្របច្បាប់របស់កម្ពុជានៅក្នុងអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិទៀតផងការមិនទទួលស្គាល់របស់អង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិនិងបណ្ដាប្រទេសលោកខាងលិចបានធ្វើឲ្យសង្គ្រាមនៅកម្ពុជាត្រូវបានអូសបន្លាយអស់រយៈពេលជាច្រើនឆ្នាំឯកឧត្តម Joseph Musomeli ឯកអគ្គរដ្ឋទូតអាមេរិកប្រចាំនៅកម្ពុជាបានគូបញ្ជាក់ថា
Yes, I understand your question. At that time, there were geopolitical issues. There was concern about Soviet aggression and expansion. There were concerns of Vietnamese and collaboration and alliance with the Soviets dominating this part of the world. So, out of fear for that, countries, including the United States, supported the Khmer Rouge regime to maintain their seat in the United Nations, while at the same time condemning that regime for its genocidal practices. It was not, one could argue morally, that was not the best sort of decision to make, that ethics and morality would compel us to have removed the Khmer Rouge from the United Nations seat. But at the time, the concern, the genuine fear that Cambodia had lost its independence and was now dominated by foreign powers convinced the Chinese, the Americans, and others to let the Khmer Rouge remain in that seat.
សិទ្ធិសញ្ញាទីក្រុងប៉ារីនៅឆ្នាំ1991ត្រូវបានធ្វើឡើងដើម្បីបញ្ចប់សង្គ្រាមនៅកម្ពុជាតែភាគីខ្មែរក្រហមនៅបន្តផ្ដាច់ខ្លួនរហូតដល់ឆ្នាំ1996ទើបធ្វើសមាហរណកម្មជាមួយរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជាមន្ត្រីអតីតខ្មែរក្រហមជាច្រើនត្រូវបានច្របាច់បញ្ចូលឲ្យបំពេញការងារជាមួយរដ្ឋាភិបាលឯអ្នកខ្លះបានលាឈប់ទៅបំពេញការងាររកស៊ីតាមធម្មតាដោយប្រជាជនទូទៅក្នុងចំណោមបងប្អូនអតីតខ្មែរក្រហមទាំងនោះគ្មាននរណាម្នាក់ស្មានដល់ឡើយថានឹងមានការកាត់ទោសអតីតមេដឹកនាំជាន់ខ្ពស់របស់ពួកគេនោះទេ
Everyone has an excuse for why they commit crimes. If you ask any murderer why they commit a crime, it's because they're poor, it's because their father beat them when they were little, it's because they needed the money for an operation for their wife. There's always some reason for committing crimes. So it's natural that the Khmer Rouge would blame the Americans or the Chinese or even the King Father, but they're not to blame. The Americans aren't guilty, the Chinese aren't guilty, the royal family isn't guilty. The ones who are guilty are the ones who perpetrated these crimes. They have no excuse for it. You could argue that the bombing was terrible. You could argue that other countries had close relations with the Khmer Rouge, but that doesn't mean the Khmer Rouge aren't guilty. Those people are guilty for the murders they committed, and they must be brought to trial.
សោកនាដកម្មដែលបានសន្ទុកដោយរបបកម្ពុជាប្រជាធិបតេយ្យពីឆ្នាំ1975ដល់ឆ្នាំ1979បានធ្វើឲ្យប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាមិនអាចបំភ្លេចបានឡើយជារៀងរាល់ឆ្នាំនៅថ្ងៃទី20ឧសភាប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាតែងតែប្រារព្ធនៅពិធីរំលឹកឡើងវិញនូវបទពិសោធន៍ដ៏ជូរចត់នៃរបបកម្ពុជាប្រជាធិបតេយ្យការទន្ទឹងរង់ចាំរបស់ប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាដែលកើតមានតាំងពីពួកគេរស់នៅក្នុងរបបកម្ពុជាប្រជាធិបតេយ្យថាឲ្យអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិមហាប្រទេសនានាមកជួយរកយុត្តិធម៌ដល់ពួកគេនោះឥឡូវបានមកដល់ហើយចំពោះបងប្អូនអតីតខ្មែរក្រហមពួកគេនៅមានការមន្ទិលសង្ស័យតែចំពោះប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាភាគច្រើនការកាត់ទោសអតីតមេដឹកនាំជាន់ខ្ពស់ខ្មែរក្រហមនោះគឺជារឿងត្រឹមត្រូវនិងសមស្របបំផុត
The United Nations was asked by Hun Sen to assist Cambodia so that the trials could meet international standards and so that the international community would recognize that the trials were meeting international standards. It took a long time of negotiation between the government of Cambodia and the United Nations to come to an agreement on how to proceed, but that agreement has finally been reached, and we are now in the second year of our operation. We are serving as advisors, and we are also cooperating and working closely with our Cambodian colleagues to ensure that this process is a success and that it is recognized around the world as meeting international standards of justice.
I think that's one of the reasons we need this trial, to document and show for the whole world to see just how horrible this regime was and how they even now are in denial. If they would admit their crimes, if they would see the horrors and the pain that they've caused their own people, it wouldn't be so important. But the fact that these people murdered millions of their own Cambodian fellow countrymen, it's just disgraceful that they're still denying it.
នៅខែមិថុនាឆ្នាំ2003កិច្ចព្រមព្រៀងមួយត្រូវបានធ្វើឡើងជាមួយអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិដើម្បីរៀបចំតុលាការមួយមានឈ្មោះថាអង្គជំនុំជម្រះវិសាមញ្ញក្នុងតុលាការកម្ពុជាដើម្បីកាត់សេចក្តីអក្រិតកម្មដែលបានប្រព្រឹត្តឡើងក្នុងរបបកម្ពុជាប្រជាធិបតេយ្យដោយមានការជួយឧបត្ថម្ភនិងសហការពីសហគមន៍អន្តរជាតិតុលាការនេះមានតួនាទីកាត់សេចក្តីអតីតមេដឹកនាំជាន់ខ្ពស់ខ្មែរក្រហមមួយចំនួនដែលបានប្រព្រឹត្តអក្រិតកម្មមកលើប្រជាជនកម្ពុជានៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ1975ដល់ឆ្នាំ1979រយៈពេលជិត30ឆ្នាំបានកន្លងផុតទៅហើយតើការកាត់ទោសអតីតមេដឹកនាំជាន់ខ្ពស់ខ្មែរក្រហមនោះអាចផ្ដល់ឲ្យនូវលទ្ធផលយ៉ាងណាទៅ
It's hard to answer what would be the good results, what will be the benefits from having the trial. To me, I think the most important thing is that the historical record will be set, that the people will not be able to say, as they can now, oh, no, it didn't happen. And another thing is that the younger generations can start to learn with some clarity what happened. Until it's clear and established by the court, it's very difficult to have the school textbooks, to have the research, to have the encyclopedias, to have school programs, and a proper understanding for the future generations. And also, the other reason is that as long as these big crimes are not taken to the court, how can people have confidence in the justice system? And how can you say somebody who stole a motor is a criminal, but somebody who was responsible for the deaths of many people is not a criminal?